Sister Katrina Muhammad, who is the author of Relationship Talks, into the conversation. Sister Katrina, thank you for holding. Come on in.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, ma'am. How are you?
I'm doing well. Happy Savior's Day. The show sounds amazing.
Well, you know, we're working hard, and we got good people like you coming on. So, Sister Katrina, hey, brother, you can jump in here whenever you want, because you've been married how many years, brother James? How many years again?
It's been 42, sir.
I thought it was 42.
42.
I didn't want to misrepresent, so I didn't say the number.
No,
so you're the resident expert in my mind. 42 years.
Well,
Sister Katrina, look. This is the question. Today is February 13th. Tomorrow is February 14th. So it's a lot of people running around here talking about, will you be my Valentine? Now, is that the question that should be asked? Or are there some other questions we should be concerned about?
Praise be to Allah. That is such a good intro. No, sir, they should not be asking, will you be my Valentine? If they knew the history of where that came from, they would definitely probably run and say, no, I'm not a pagan. I'm not a pedophile. I'm not a Roman polytheist God. I don't believe in none of that. Why am I saying, will you be my Valentine? That's not what I believe in. So
how about
I would just
shooting an arrow through somebody's heart?
Yeah, that dude Cupid was supposedly also a god, a Roman god, and he had a connection with their god of love, Eros, or whatever his name was. So all of that is polytheism. We need to really research these words and where these traditions come from. And we were told not to celebrate their holidays. Like, that's not who we are. So no, they should not be asking who will be my Valentine. That's not good. So thank you for opening with that. Let's get that clear. First of all, there are some other questions they should ask though. And I mean, one of the main questions I would say is what the minister said, which is, what is your relationship with Allah? Because understanding their relationship with God, how they view God, how they commune with God, how often they pray, how they give God the credit for everything that's happening in their life, as opposed to taking credit for themselves, right? Like they did it all and Allah had nothing to do with it. Like all of that, those type of questions, that's the start. That's where they should start. And then there's a whole bunch of other questions after that that they should be asking. But first, they need to start with Allah.
Why, in writing this book and in having conversations with people, why do you think that's such an important question? Because I don't think that's one that we kind of get into just basically.
Well, it starts there. The minister said that the reason why we're having relationship problems is because we don't have a firm connection with Allah. And so understanding that and understanding who he is, because he has a long track record now of proving that he knows what he's talking about, right? So, yeah, that's where it all starts right there. So regardless of what a person is thinking, oh, yeah, I'm good. You know, Allah and me, we won. We good. Maybe not if you're on your third or fourth marriage. Maybe not. Maybe that's not the case.
Maybe
and so, it's real easy to point the finger at other people. But, the minister also talked about that, too. He said you can point your finger at someone, but all those other fingers, when you're pointing, they're pointing right back at who? You.
So, Sister Katrina,
you might want to take a look in the mirror.
If you have... I
want to make everybody feel bad because, look, I was married and divorced, so I had to take a look at me. I had to take a look at what questions did I not ask in the beginning? What did I not see? What kind of – I had rose-colored glasses on, and I just ignored some things. It was like, it's going to be good. Just go – let's go for it. Like, no.
So, Sister Katrina,
slow down.
Katrina, if there's a couple, one is a good person, they're good, they they vegetarian, they meditate a little bit or whatever, but they don't necessarily say, well, they don't quote unquote believe in God. Then the other mate is one who is more of a religious type who believes in God and all that. Can they have a successful marriage then? What
There's
other,
so many...
if it's that, so that's just two factors, but is it possible that they still can have a good long marriage relationship?
I mean, even the Bible talks about being unequally yoked and how that is going to eventually become a problem. And so that is going to become a problem. I interviewed a couple that got divorced, and that was one of their problems, which is why I have a chapter in the book on religion and various questions regarding spirituality and how you practice your faith. Because maybe in the beginning, the honeymoon period, right, in marriages, everything's all good. Start having children, you're focused on that. But somewhere around year 7 or 8, and this is according to the statistics, the marriages start to experience some rocky waters. The majority of divorces that do happen, and I'm just talking about in the statistics for this country, happen around the time marriages hit year 7 or 8. I find that to be very interesting that that's such a high percentage that around that time, apparently the honeymoon phase is over, and now it's like things get real. So if you are really into your faith and you're with someone who in the beginning, I mean, they were not and they still aren't, eventually that comes to pass. It can become a problem, right? Now, there are those anomalies. There are those people who are out there that, for them, they're listening to this and they're saying, wow, we've been married 32 years and that's never been a problem for us, right? So there's some couples out there that have probably weathered that storm and they figured it out. I don't know. But for some of the couples I spoke with, that became a big issue. It became a big problem. So, it's not as simple as just one question can make or break a relationship. 9 times out of 10, when you speak to people who have been divorced, there were multiple things that happened in the marriages, not just one issue.
Brother James, and Sister Katrina, I call myself an expert on what not to do. So I don't tell people what to do, but I can tell everybody what not to do, right? But I think in this society, when it comes to relationships, it's kind of like this whole Valentine's thing when you're a child and will you be my Valentine and can I get a Valentine's Day card? Then if I don't get none, I'm really brokenhearted, and the teacher the only one that gave me a Valentine's card. And there's a lot of kind of emotion wrapped up.
Yeah.
And very often when you look at the movies and you look at how people talk, you listen to the songs. Yeah. This thing that we call love is very emotionally driven, right? And the thing that surprises me that I really don't understand, is how people seem to get overwhelmed by that, and they don't get into basic compatibility. What do I mean by basic compatibility? What do you believe? What do I believe? What are you committed to? What am I committed to? What are priorities for you? What are priorities for me? How do I see the world? How do you see the world? And it seems to me that questions and honesty, that's the other thing, because I said this the last time, Sister Katrina, that you were on. Honesty, because you got a lot of people not being honest about where they are. And brother, Brother Hamid Wazwan Sharif. We should have had him on here, Brother James. He's on the Facebook page for WBLN AM 1690. Him and his wife been married 58 years. Let me give him a round of applause.
Praise Allah.
58 years.
Wonderful.
58 years. So, it's interesting to me because, like, I've seen it different places. And one of the places that's really stark to me is black folk married to white folk that they didn't know was MAGA. And Donald Trump showed up, and now I'm like, but how could you not know who the person was? You know what I'm saying about James?
Wow. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And that's just one example. I mean, of course, other things. But Sister Katrina, how do we get to questions that start to get into who am I, who are you? And my favorite saying is, when we put our cards on the table, do our hands match? What are some of the questions in your book that you talk about, or the types of questions that you wrote about that get us to digging deeper and getting into compatibility and what we believe and whether we're on the same page?
I'm so glad you. Yes, sir. I agree with everything that you just said, and it is about compatibility. I just want to share this quote real quick, and this was said by the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, in a lecture called Keys to a Successful Family Life, May 9th of 1984.
Wow.
So he's been teaching on this for a long time, okay? So I won't read the whole quote, but I'll just read just a couple sentences. He said, during that courting period, that's the time when the man and the woman must be as open and honest to find out all you can about that individual. You'll never find it all out, but you will at least know enough to know whether you are making the right decision. When you go to court, the object of the court is to display the evidence upon which a judge will make a decision. This is why when two people are in love, they say they are courting. That's what it means. They are deciding based upon the evidence whether there is sufficient evidence there to justify making that big step. And that's a serious part of any relationship between a man and a woman, whether the woman or the man is really worthy. So I started this out just explaining to people what this book was about, instructions on how to go about engaging in the book, especially from a fair perspective of good communication. And the minister has talked about good communication too. And another lecture called Keys to a Successful Family Life. So, and that's in that same lecture. So I start out there, and then the book opens with a foreword, which was very well written by Student Minister Jamil Muhammad out of D.C. It was edited by Sister Karai Muhammad. I need to say that and thank all of these people, because I didn't just do this book alone. This is a team effort. Brother Taiwan Muhammad out of Houston, out of Texas, he helped with the graphics of the book, and Brother Kofi was my producer of the book, helping to kind of put it all together. And also my mother, thank Allah for moms, Helen Jackson, she was a court reporter, retired court reporter, so you know. She was like, let me see that book. I'm going to do some editing. And so she did some editing. And so I thank Allah for all these wonderful people in my life that saw the manuscript, saw the vision, saw what I was trying to do, and was able to lend their expertise and their gift to help make the book become what it has become. All praises due to Allah. So it starts like that. And then I start the first chapter in finance, because at the time of writing this book and all the interviews I had done, so many people said that finance was the number one reason why they had marital problems. And then I did research on it. And according to the research, but of course, the Europeans putting this research together, right? Finance is the number one reason for divorce. But that's not what the minister said. So I'm not going with that anymore. I should have flipped it. I should have put the religion in the spiritual chapter first, because that's where he said it starts, our relationship with Allah. But the book starts out with finance, and then there's other chapters like family and friends, privacy and health, food, diet and travel, intimacy, education, religion. What would you do, which is like a chapter on scenarios, and what would you do in those scenarios, right? How would you handle yourself? And then a chapter called transportation. Believe it or not, there's some issues there with people in transportation. I met a couple, the whole time they were in courtship, dating or whatever, and engaged, they never really discussed transportation at all. Come to find out, they get married, and then they discover, one spouse discovers that the other person hates flying, like they're terrified of flying. And so anytime they wanted to take a trip, you had one person flying and the other person taking a train or whatever. I mean, it was just disjointed, and it was creating a problem in their marriage. So, I mean, everything, you can't assume anything, which is why the book has over 2,000 questions. I mean, some people might read the question and say, wow, that's a mundane question, asking somebody, do they like to eat fruit? But I've met some people who exposed that they were allergic to fruit. They can't eat any kind of fruit. It makes them extremely ill. So if you're a vegetarian person who eats fruit all the time and vegetables and all of that, and you marry someone who that type of diet literally makes them ill, that might be a problem in terms of dinner time and preparing meals together, right? So you do have to discuss everything. That is my suggestion.
Yeah, I like what you said about the putting the spiritual first, because, you know, like a lot of us, I wasn't rich when I started courting or even got married. You know, we were struggling.
Right.
We were broke, basically, but we were both striving. We were both striving toward a way to get unbroke. We were both working together in a way and spiritually connected in a way that allowed us to move through that brokenness, because the spiritual connection kind of kept us kind of centered and focused in order to get through that phase. You know, because it gets rocky, but like you said, the spiritual root was very important in getting through those phases. So it's a very good point.
That's right, and that's beautiful testimony.
I want to come back to one thing in this word that's being used, courtship. So, brothers and sisters, just to be clear, in the Nation of Islam and in different societies around the world, and some even in this country, there's a process by which a young man and young woman, or I guess old man and old woman, come together and decide to be married. So courtship in the Nation of Islam is a formal process. It has rules. It has do's and don'ts, right? And this is the way that our great-grandmothers or great-grandmothers, many of them were involved in that process, where one, you are looking to get married, right?
That's right.
Number one, you've decided that you are now ready to get married, and you're looking to get married. So now you're looking for a suitable partner, and you're going through this process, and Sister Katrina talked about, of being honest and asking questions, and putting everything on the table, you know, in terms of, you know, just different things that come up, man. I mean, for example, I've got a good friend of mine, him and his wife, very beautiful couple. They've been married for some years, but now her mother and her stepfather have had health problems, and they've got problems taking care of themselves. And now they have literally moved in with my friends, and they're handling it well. But how do you everybody doesn't handle that. You got, and I'm going kind of up the scale in terms of ages of people. You know, you have grandparents that are now raising their grandchildren. Some even adopting their grandchildren, right? And grandparents these days is not as old as they used to be. So I think, and again, I am the man to tell you what not to do. Let me be clear on that. I am not the man to tell you what to do. I'm just raising some questions. But, I think that these kinds of things, that's why I think the thing of compatibility, even if we say we believe the same thing, and we may, but are our perspectives compatible, even in our beliefs, and are our personal? Because you marry an individual, right? So I think at the end of the day, the question is, can you and this individual make it? You don't marry a whole group of people. Well, we don't. You marry that person,
What you just said, Brother Naba'a, again relates back to the spirit and to your faith, because we're taught as Muslims to honor our parents, our mother and our fathers. We don't throw them out on the street once they get older, or just stick them in some nursing home somewhere and good luck. I hope they take good care of you. Like that's not what we're taught to do. But if you are with someone and you don't have that discussion about, okay, what happens when our parents get older, or God forbid one of our children is in some accident and then needs help. Like a friend of mine driving from college, she actually fell asleep at the wheel of the car on the freeway, hit the median. The car flipped several times. Several people in the car had their seatbelt on. Unfortunately, she didn't have hers on. They survived, a few scratches or whatever. She survived, but she was a quadriplegic after that, from like the neck down. And I think she ended up gaining like almost, the chest, mid-chest. But her mother, she had to move back home. Her mother had to do everything for her. So, God forbid, we don't know. Allah is the best knower. We have no idea what's going to happen. But if, God forbid, something like that happens, are you with a person who is a ride or die? We say ride or die, right? Are they going to say, oh, no problem, we're going to convert that other room, move mom and dad in, move the child back in? I got you. I got this. Whether that's my child or not, or you had that child from a previous marriage, that's still my son or daughter because I married you, right? Do we think like that? Do we have conversations like that? Or is it just, we wait until now the situation is here, and now we're talking about it, and now we're discovering the person we've married, they don't think like that. They don't have a problem with putting mom and dad in a nursing home. They don't want the child to come move in with them. They may have changed their mind. People. Yeah, yes, I have met people. Yes, that's a serious question, what you just posed. And I have that question in my book as well, in terms of how you view your elder parents or anyone else in your family. I've met couples where it wasn't mom or dad or a sibling or a child. It was a cousin. It was an auntie. It was somebody else in the family. It was a friend who just needed help, lost their job, house foreclosed. They're down and out. They needed a place to stay. They moved the person in. Their mate was like, what are you doing? Like, you didn't talk to me about that. This is not okay. I don't even like that friend that you just moved in the house, And so, you have to talk about these things because they're going to happen. Things do happen, right? Yeah. And so you need to have at least some kind of conversation about, well, what if? How would you feel about that? And just no question should be off limits. The minister said, ask all that you can. That's why I read that quote earlier. We get shy and we don't want to ask too much, especially if we like the person, because we're like, oh, I like this person. I just want to stay in right? I don't want to know too much. No, we have to know it all. Because at the end of the day, like I said, the honeymoon period is going to end, and it's going to get real in these marriages. And then the question is, are you going to be able to stay with this person or not? Is this person going to be able to stay with you or not? But you got to talk about it.
I got a question for our resident expert who has 42 years.
42.
Oh, no,
42 years.
That's major.
Bro, 42. You got something. You got something happening.
I know that's right.
Brother James, what seriously, looking back, what are some of the keys that you feel make for a successful marriage and being able to last 42 years? What are some of the things? Because I just went on Twitter, right? So they got a chat room tonight, date night. Don't spend Valentine's Day alone. Oh, boy. Somebody's about to get in trouble.
In trouble.
Brother James, what from your experience, what are some of the things that you would say have made you successful in your wife?
Well, number one, it is very true what you started off with, Katrina started off with, in terms of, in our case, in the belief in Allah, our view of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. We were united on that. We came through the process on that. When we were courting, we came through that process the way it's supposed to have been, according to our nation, according to the rules of the Nation of Islam. We had, we were never in a room, just around, and my wife is back in the background testifying now. But she helped me in the arm lock most of the time at the altar, so but seriously, but that's the glue right there, and then patience and prayer is very important. Patience and prayer, because there were a lot of struggles, lots of them. Because when we were married, of course, I was very deep into the Final Call newspaper. I wasn't the editor at the time, but we spent a lot of time at the Final Call or engaged in the paper process, so that kept me away from the home. And so I'm away from the home, as many of either the wife or the husband may be, and my wife is at home taking care of everything with the children, getting them back to school. I may be out of the country for a month at a time. But it was because there was a glue, in my opinion, there was a glue that had been laid between us years before some of those things had to happen while I was away. Of course, it was trying times for her, because one quote that I remember her saying is that at one point she felt like I don't know how she said it, maybe something to the effect of a married widow. Because I was gone so much, but I was gone on a mission, and she understood that I was helping the minister. And so I guess the wedding of her with the minister and the wedding of me with the minister made our wedding much stronger, because we both saw the goal of that. So that's one of the major pieces. We did know each other before we came into the nation. So when I came in, we both came in. I came in first, but she came in. And, of course, it was hard back then, too, because of the demand on the female and the demand on the man. And even in terms of the female, the change of dress, that sisters have to submit to. There's a dress code. It wasn't like before we got married. It wasn't that kind of dress code. It wasn't a thing that I used to do, So all of that. But again, brother, it's that connection with Allah, and in our case, the relationship with the minister specifically, and then just a basic. We were compatible. She's a very giving person. Very giving. I mean, I could be. you see a person who is, I would say, homeless or whatever, unhoused, as they say nowadays. I might give them $1. She'll reach in her pocket and get $5, $10. And I'm saying, God, that made me want to embarrass you, man, So, so we're compatible. She's much very loving person, and so we're just compatible. That's the basic thing, man. Basic, And so it was.
But it sounds like similar in your faith too.
It sounds like what?
That you're both similar in your faith. You take your faith very seriously. I mean, the minister did a lecture about that, the man and the mission. And he really broke that down. And it sounds like what you just explained is just, I'm hearing that lecture. I remember listening and studying that lecture, the man and the mission, and women who marry men in the mission like that and understanding what it takes to keep the relationship together. That she has to be strong in her faith and call on Allah, because that man is working the mission, and he may not be there. So then she has to be strong in her faith to make Allah sufficient for her. I mean, that's a strong, faithful woman right there. And it sounds like you're a strong, faithful brother. So I'm not surprised that you all have waited 42 years. You all have stood strong on your faith together. And that was the key to your success. That is the key to your success. All praise is due to Allah. That's beautiful.
Yes, ma'am. Praise be to Allah. Yes, ma'am.
We got a caller.
Yeah, you should give out the number,
Stanley.
too.
Yeah. Let's bring Stanley in. And brothers and sisters, get in on this conversation. 773-591-1690. 773-591-1690. Stanley, welcome to the show. Go right ahead.
Yes. You know, I don't call in often, but you know what I just want to say to the sister, she just really sparked my stuff and giving spirit. And I just want to say I was married once, and I look forward to one day being married again. I do not understand why I'm single, but I guess Allah will work that out. But when I was courting, you know, I wrote my courtmate at the time, who actually became my wife. I wrote a letter, and I asked her a series of about 70 questions. And she thought that was strange for me to ask all these questions. But I said, you know, I wanted to write this letter just to, you know, so you can get familiarized with me, so you can know something about me, you know. And and take some time and read it. And if you have any questions, you know, just, hey, feel free to ask me any questions. And but I also asked, you know, a series of questions as well. But and I'm gonna get off. But I just want to say that I really appreciate that aspect of you discussing that. And when I was going through some issues, and one of the key things that our beloved Mr. Ishmael asked, you know, well, sister, did you know this about? Yes, I did. You know, and but she didn't understand the importance. Well, I don't even need to get into that, but I just wanted to say I appreciate the fact of giving that type of information, because you really do need to know something about who you are trying to attempt to have a relationship with. So that's basically what I want to say. I could say so much more, but if I want to get any more information, I need to get your book.
Yes, that's true. And speaking of that, Sister Katrina, how can everybody get your book?
Very easy. He can get the book tonight if he goes on Amazon.com. Relationship Talk, Katrina Muhammad. There you go. But also, we will be providing, I think it's sold out right now, but we'll be providing more books to the vendors on Sunday, the vendors at the mosque at Muhammad University of Islam, the vendors that are there on Sunday, they have the book. But I think they're sold out now, so I have to get them more books.
Yeah. We have my Savior's Day.
Check this out. You know,
yes, inshallah.
I'm a soldier. I will eventually get the book, but I would just say this. I do not understand, but it'll be revealed to me why I am single. A single black man, FOI, professional man, soldier, no children. I just don't understand it. So I'm just like Allah. It is what it is, but I don't understand.
Well, Allah's the best knower. Maybe Allah is giving you some time, you know, to kind of clear out all that happened in the past, so that something new, Allah will bless you with something new when all that has cleared out of your mind, out of your heart, out of your being. And that's okay, too. Allah is the best knower. The minister said, you know, these divorces or whatever, like car wrecks, and some of us run from one relationship and you blink and they're in a whole new relationship. They haven't even given themselves time to heal. He said you all are getting remarried within a year or two. Like, that's not even enough time. So, I mean, I say all praises due to Allah. If Allah is giving you some time, all praises due to Allah. Allah is the best knower, right? While you working on yourself.
How important is counseling? The brother was mentioning something that made about counseling. How important is it, if you're going through these periods of getting counseling?
Very important.
Is there something that you should look for from the person that you're trying to get counseling? You go to your best girlfriend and get counseling, or he mentioned Minister Ishmael. So
yes.
What about? Mm-hmm.
Yes, I speak to that in the book as well, asking questions such as, do you believe in premarital counseling? Will you participate in premarital counseling? Do you, if the marriage is having problems or we have some concerns in the marriage, are you open to seeking marriage counseling while we are in the marriage, right? Are you, if there, for whatever reason, you've decided this is not working and you want to separate, would you agree first to go to counseling before a separation? Like, I ask questions like that because you have some people who are staunch, no way, I'm not telling nobody my business, which I think is really an engram of our people, right? Not really understanding the importance of counseling and being, I guess, ashamed and also scared of what other people will think of them or say about them if they reveal whatever their issues are to the counselor, right? But we have to go seek help. We got to get out of that mindset. That's a sickness that was put in us. That is not where we should be. We should be getting premarital counseling with our ministers or pastors. If you go to a church with your pastor, you're in the nation with the student minister, we need premarital counseling because sometimes a third person can see something that you don't see. For whatever reason, you're not seeing it. And maybe you haven't asked the questions that should be asked. You skirted around some issues, but in the session, the student minister and the pastor, hopefully, inshallah, they're going to go right there. They're going to go right there. I'm going to reveal this. I almost married someone not in the Nation of Islam, and I went to premarital counseling with this person. And the question posed was, let's just say there was someone in your family that really needed some help. And they asked you for some money. But the caveat was they didn't want you to share with your spouse that they borrowed this money from you. And so they've asked you to not reveal that. And this is how much whatever amount of money they need. Write down on a sheet of paper who that person is, how much you would lend them, like if you would or wouldn't do it. And why, right? I said that I would not lend anyone any money because once I'm married, my money is his money and we're together, and that's lying. That's deceitful. And the person asking me to do that, they might be embarrassed, but that still doesn't give them the right to tell me, to put this on me, you can't share this with your spouse, right? That's not right. So I would not do it, right? The person at the time that I was considering marrying said, yes, he would do it. And the person was his mom, and the amount of money was whatever it is. And his reasoning was his money is his money, and he can do whatever he wants to do with his money, and he doesn't have to get any permission from his wife on what to do. And it's really none of her business anyway, or whatever. So, between that and some other questions, Allah revealed to me that's not the guy. Like at all, But at the time, I hadn't even thought to ask him anything. Like in my mind, was like, of course he thinks the way I think, right? Like, of course. And no, we were oil and water. Like it was just complete opposites. And I thank Allah for saving me from that marriage. I thank Allah. I feel like I dodged a bullet with that one. But anyway, so yes, get premarital counseling. I have questions like that in the book. People need to not be afraid because they're there to help us.
But
they're servants. They're there to serve the people. Yeah.
On that question, so, and I don't know how it plays out, how that counsel went, but so if you're sitting there and I don't know if the answer is revealed, while you all are talking, but if for example, you're sitting there and you say what you said and the other person said what they said and it's said out loud, is there a conversation of discussion? Because if that was the one thing that said, don't do that, don't marry this guy, perhaps a conversation could have brought clarity or even a change of, perspective. And that's what that's my question.
Yes, sir. There were probably about 9 or 10 other questions like that.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
So, and there was a conversation with the minister. And then and really I have to thank the minister at that time who really approached us very gingerly, and said, I have some concerns about the potential of your union, and really think you all need to probably rethink what you want to do here, because I'm seeing some serious areas where you are just not compatible and you don't think the same, and your morals are even very different in terms of how you believe your spouse should be handled, and went into some examples of that and pulled some scripture and everything. And I mean, I prayed on it. And then I think it was probably the 7th session, and it was a total, if you can make it through 10, they would agree to marry you, right, or something like that. And the 7th session, it was like, yeah, this isn't going to work for us. And we agreed. We came to an agreement. Mm-hmm. And that's how that went. And I gave him back his ring, and that was that, Mm-hmm. And so, and I thank Allah, because we just were not, And I think I was 22 at the time or something. I was very young. So, yeah, you have to get premarital counseling. Yeah. Do not skip that.
Katrina, we got 2 minutes. We're going to give you one. How can people get the book? And anything you want to close with?
They can get the book from Amazon. I said that earlier. And then inshallah also from the vendors at Muhammad University of Islam on Sunday. But I think they're sold out. We got to get some more copies for them. I just want to thank the minister, the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan, for really all of his lectures, so many lectures that he's written about the woman, the importance of the woman, the importance of family, the importance of a good marriage. I mean, all of that was the precipice for me putting these questions together. I want to thank Master Fard Muhammad for giving us the minister, giving us the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, giving us our nation, the teachings that we have to value ourselves and each other, giving us self-improvement class every Friday. So our studying is never over. It's just continuous development of self, and that's what this book is about. And I have also talked to people who purchased the book, and I want to thank all of the people who purchased this book and supported it that are not in courtship, but they purchased the book so that they can self-discover themselves. They've actually told me they have realized from reading some of the questions they need to work on self a little bit more. All praise is due to Allah. Right. So if this book has helped anyone, I thank Allah. And thank you, Brother Naba'a. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sister. So we got to let you go. Look, straight words, WVON AM 1690. We're at the top of the hour. We're going to break, but come right back. We got more of this. Stay tuned.
February is not about his story. It's about our story. Celebrate.